Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. Yeah, this afternoon. Let me do one more thing here. Close that. Okay. And this is our first session of Open Ed Week for the district. So we're real excited to get started. We have a special guest here today. It is Dr. Robert Frost. And he is our Vice Chancellor of Educational Services and Institutional Effectiveness for the district. He has been a champion for OER ever since he first started working for our district. And the reason we asked him to come here and kind of kick us off for Open Ed Week is that he has worked consistently with Chancellor Goldsmith and the OER campus leads to find the best ways to support and expand OER throughout our whole district. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Frost to just say a couple words.
Thanks a lot, Sally. I really appreciate the opportunity to say hello and welcome everybody. I'm actually late to cabinet, but I really wanted to do this because everybody talks about lowering students' costs. And we know we're lowering students' costs through our OER efforts. But when the board decides to invest $1 million in a new project, that is throwing a lot of faith, trust, and commitment in the direction of faculty. And you know what, frankly, getting here last year, as I did without knowing anybody and having to start from scratch, for the board, for Dr. Goldsmith, for my colleagues here downtown to see that, you know what, we took this $1 million and we've already invested over 700,000 of it, 707,000, I think, in 109 projects in 28 or so unique disciplines. That's in less than a year. It's an incredible ramp up and build out that you all are making. Lowering students' costs is one piece of this, but here's the thing: as any longtime community college faculty member knows, it's not just about lowering costs. The difference between one book, and maybe a couple of movies that you don't tell anybody you're showing, and the kind of resources you can draw in when given that freedom to do so, the difference is tremendous. That's what I'm seeing. That's the part that I'm excited about. You know, we oftentimes don't like to talk about quality in education because it takes us back to the 80s when it was a very top-down and driven kind of quality management. But you're driving the educational quality of the district. And I just wanted an opportunity to say that I see that, and I see it being done in super impressive ways. You're expanding the diversity of materials in our classrooms, and you're making our curriculum continuously adaptive year in, year out to all the new possibilities. Now, once you become free of the purchased resources that came, right, ready-made to serve up to the students in the past. So rather than spend any more time on that, I just wanted you to know what I was thinking about, how thankful I am for the work you're doing, and let you know how much it means, not just to myself, but to Dr. Goldsmith. Amanda knows, I think you probably have talked with the leads about this. I am so excited about what we're going to be able to share with the board in the coming months about what we've done with this money, because to me, it's just a start. So welcome. Thank you for making this early commitment as a pioneer, you know, in faculty initiatives. I remember just how big a risk it is. So I want you to know how much I appreciate your taking a chance and investing your time in OER projects like this. So thank you very much. Good to see you all, and I'll look forward to next steps in our meetings together.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Okay. Um, with that, I am going to just go ahead and get started. Okay. So, um, welcome to our workshop. It's called Searching for OER, a hands-on guide to finding OER. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sally Potter, and I am the department chair of EMLS and linguistics at FCC. I'm also the OER faculty coordinator, and I'll be joined by Linda Kobashigawa, who is our FCC OER librarian. She's also the ASCCC OERI liaison. She's also the chair of our OER committee here on campus, and also the ZTC task force. So those are some of the roles that the two of us play. So I'm gonna, this is our agenda of what we have. I see we have a nice small group, so that's great. So I'm gonna take you through just a little bit about defining OER, what it is, and then how to use it. And I'm going to go pretty quickly because I know that you're here for a reason. You already are interested in OER, and you're already convinced that think that OER is important. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. And then I'll turn it over to Linda, and she's going to show you the places to find OER. Different repositories and the different places that you can find it. And then we should have some time for questions at the end. Linda does have to leave right at 3 o'clock because she has an appointment with a student, but I can stay a little bit later if we do go over. If you do have a question about something as I'm going through and talking at the beginning, go ahead and write your question in the chat. Or you can save it for the end. And then Linda is going to keep an eye on the chat. She can answer that. Or if it's something that maybe she doesn't quite know how to answer, we can discuss it at the end. Okay, so open educational resources. What are those? Okay, Hewlett Foundation defines those as teaching, learning, and research resources that reside in the public domain or are released under an intellectual property license that permits their free use and repurposing by others. So when we talk about open educational resources, OER, we're talking about the license that these different materials carry. And these can be textbooks, they can be videos, they can be Canvas modules, anything that's inside a Canvas module, test banks, rubrics, anything, pages, anything that you prepare inside your Canvas course. So speaking of the license, there is something called Creative Commons, or CC. This is a nonprofit that was built to kind of compete with traditional copyright. And so anybody can put a CC license on their work if they want to allow others to use their work in a way that promotes sharing. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go really quickly through this. You probably have seen these little icons on different OER sources that you have come across. And so they put them in this order to show that up at the top, public domain, this is the most free. You can do anything that you want with it. And then as you go down, the one that's CC BY, that is very, very free. You can do anything that you want with it. You just have to make sure that you list the author's name. And then as they go down, it's more and more and more restrictive. And then when we get into this area, there's more restrictions. We don't have time to get into exactly what these all are this time, but we have more, there are resources that you can find that specifically talk about copyright, and you can really get into this. If you are participating in one of the OER award programs through one of the colleges, you're going to learn all about this and get more information about exactly what these mean, because there are a lot of details about these, but I'm not going to spend any more time on this. We can talk about, definitely we can talk about these at the end if you have more questions. Okay, so I've talked about OER and exactly what OER is. Has to do with the license of the material. There's another acronym that I want to introduce you to, and that is ZTC, Zero Textbook Cost. Okay, so that has to do with the cost of the material, and ZTC courses or ZTC materials, they may be open or they may not be open. Okay, sometimes ZTC and materials are also open, sometimes they're not. Okay, and I'm going to get into some examples of what those could be in just a minute. But then there's one more thing that I want to tell you about, and that is fair use. Okay, fair use is really tricky, and it is something that if you think that you're going to use like part of a book or part of a textbook and call it fair use, it is very, very difficult to do that and still be legal. So for example, you can use materials and still be in fair use if you have the intention of the students purchasing that textbook. So that's why we can make copies legally of like the first chapter of our textbook if the students are ultimately going to purchase that textbook, but you can't make copies, the same copies of the same chapter, and distribute those to the students if you do not, if there is no intention of the students ever purchasing that textbook. That would be not legal. Okay, so it's very tricky. So my suggestion for you or for anyone who is trying to kind of wiggle around in fair use, don't do it. It's just very, very difficult. Okay, ZTC. So some examples of zero textbook cost materials. Library resources. We have lots and lots of resources here in our library that you can use. Anything that students have access to, you can give them. Okay, so you can find resources in our library. You can, if you're not sure how to package them or you're not sure about the license, if it's legal to give those to the students, you can talk to a librarian and they can help you with the link or help you prepare a PDF. You can also use websites. So any material that you can find free on the web is also free to be used by students in your course. And you can also write your own. And I put write your own, not necessarily meaning that just to sit down and write a 500-page book from scratch. But what I mean is we're always writing materials, writing direct, instructions, writing little pieces of our course, writing little bits that put things into context. We're always doing that. That is all considered ZTC. So just thinking about that. Okay, so really quickly, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is the reason why we do this work. This is why it's important. This is from a 2018 survey, and these are students, not just community college students, but all university students. This is a large study, and they found that in surveying them, they found that 64% of the students didn't, at some point in their college career, did not purchase a textbook, okay? Because of the high cost of textbooks. They also found that almost 43% of them had to take fewer courses because they couldn't afford the textbook. More than 40% of them did not register for specific courses because they couldn't afford the textbook. 35% earned a poor grade because they couldn't afford the textbook, and almost 23% had to drop a course because they couldn't afford the textbook. So if I'm just putting this as a reminder. This is the reason why we do this work. If we can provide materials, course materials, books, and other course materials that are free for our students, then this wipes this out, okay? Of course, these metrics affect students of color, students who are in the marginalized populations. It affects those students more acutely than all students. So that's another thing to think about. So just as a reminder. Okay, another thing that I wanted to mention as you start to look for your materials, typically, you know, the way that you're going to be looking for materials as you're creating your course is through something called backwards mapping. You know, as you're thinking about your course and thinking about what you need for your course, you know, sometimes you're going to be searching and you're going to come across a textbook that you love. It covers everything that you need, and you can just throw away your old textbook and then find a replacement, boom, done, and you have no more work to do, and that's great. But that doesn't always happen for every single discipline, and it's doesn't always happen so quickly. More often than not, you're going to be looking for and you're going to end up using different parts of different textbooks. So you may have you know, one textbook that you're using for maybe like the first few weeks of the class, and then you may have another, you know, textbook or articles that you're going to be using for another section of your class, and then you go back to another textbook, and so you're kind of mixing them all together. If you don't currently have a ZTC course right now, what I would suggest for you to do right now is, yeah, look for something that is a textbook replacement. That's great. But if you can't find that, then start to supplement. So look for materials that maybe you can use in addition to your regular textbook, and then use more and more of the OER, more and more of the ZTC materials until you can completely get rid of your commercial textbook. So how do you do that? You start by backwards mapping your SLOs and your objectives. So looking at your COR of your course, you start by thinking about what are the things that you want your students to learn. So that's going to be your SLOs and your objectives. And then you're going to think about your assessments. Okay, what are the things that the students need to know? And then you're going to look specifically for the materials, the reading materials, the activities that give the students that information, and that's the material that you're going to start collecting. Okay, for attribution on these sources, there's an acronym that we remember. It's called TASL, Title, Author, Source, and License. Okay, so that's the information that you want to collect. So anytime you're using a chapter or an article or an image from an OER source, then you need to make sure that you have the title, the author, the source, and then also the license. Okay, now the good thing is that more often than not, this information is going to be found right there on the OER book or the OER article. You can just copy and paste it. It's very simple. But if not, there's something called an open attribution builder. And I'm going to put this in the chat for you right now. So this is similar to something like EasyBib or one of those like an MLA or an APA builder, citation builder, where you just put in the title, you put in the URL, the author, you choose the license, and then it creates it for you. So this Open Attribution Builder by Open House is licensed under CC by 4.0. I built that attribution through the Attribution Builder. So it comes out perfectly linked, hyperlinked, and in the perfect format by using that website. Okay. Okay. Finding OER, where to look for high quality OER. I am going to unshare my screen and turn it over to Linda now.
All right. Thanks, Sally. Let me start sharing mine. I hope I'm going to share the correct screen. Okay, let me see. All right. All right. So hi everyone. Yeah, so I'm going to run through a whole list of where to find OER, hopefully make it as easy to understand and follow as possible. But of course, if you have any questions at all, feel free to throw something in the chat. Also, there may be some of these sites that I haven't looked at for a while because there's quite a few of them. So if anyone has been using any of these, I always like to hear from folks. Just about, anything that's new that you've noticed or anything like that. And then I think Sally's going to be throwing the links to each one in the chat. Awesome. So that you can follow it and check it out a little more. So again, I'm just going to run through several really helpful places to find information. So our go-to is the ASCCC OERI, or the OER initiative. So as Sally mentioned, she has been the liaison for the OERI previously. I'm our current liaison for the campus, and we attend lots of webinars and meetings and trainings and things like that through the ASCCC OERI, and it is all California Community College specific. You can head to asccc-oeri.org, and it's a really helpful place to find, number one, archived webinars or live webinars or meetings. Some of these are discipline, or a lot of these actually are discipline specific. You may see emails coming through from Sally or I specific to your discipline. If not, we'll usually send those to the chairs. And some of these are just for folks from different California community colleges to get together and discuss different OER in their specific discipline. There are discipline leads as well. And actually, let me go to that site. Can everyone see that I'm on the ASCCC OER? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So up here under webinars and events is where you can check a lot of those things out. So you can look at upcoming OER webinars and events. There's quite a few for math coming up, psychology, early childhood education, geology. So they host these webinars on nearly every subject that we teach here. There are also archived webinars that you can search through. So if you're looking for something specific to accessibility, there's quite a few that have been recorded that you can watch. And then going up here to the resources tab is the curated OER collections. Most of these, or I should say all of these, collections have been either created or funded by or reviewed and evaluated by ASCCC folks. And so they're all listed in alphabetical order by the discipline, and you can scroll through and look at any of the OER that are created for these subject areas. I'm in the library, so I'm going to look at the OER resources per library. And what's really nice about these pages is they've really thought about trying to put everything in one place for everyone. So I can look at some of these library specific webinars that they have, and it'll be the same for all the other resources. Some of these are full OER textbooks that have been published. Some of them are modules. Some of them are ancillary materials. But again, this is usually our first stop when looking for OER. And then one other thing that I do want to show is, let me go to, is it ASCCC OER supported resources? I want to show the discipline leads. Do you remember where that's at, Sally? Am I looking at it and I just don't see it?
Yeah, I think it's under by discipline maybe, and then you keep, and then, oh, there it is, right there. I see it on the page. Yeah, right
Oh,
there, right
discipline
there.
leads. Okay. So each area has a discipline lead at one of the California community colleges. And so you can actually find your discipline lead in here, send them an email. They're more than happy to help. I think, Sally, were you a discipline lead at one point? I know Amanda was a
No,
discipline lead.
Amanda
Oh,
was
okay.
though for ECE,
For
but yeah,
ECE.
not me.
Okay. And so you'll see there are some discipline leads listed here. Oh, there she is, Amanda. That you can reach out to, and they can answer questions that you have about OER specific to your discipline. Alrighty. Um, so that's the OERI website. Then we have Canvas Commons. And Canvas Commons is a really good place to find resources that somebody, made available for you in Canvas. And these can range from, an assignment to an entire course to a module, anything and almost anything that you can create in Canvas, and anyone can put that material into Canvas Commons. You will see when you go into Canvas Commons that not everything in there is OER. So pay attention to where they list the license for their material, which is usually when you click into one of the resources in Canvas Commons, it'll list what kind of license it has. For all of the ASCCC OER stuff in Canvas Commons, those are OER, usually CC by materials. Okay, and then Sal, if you have anything to add, feel free to jump in. So I'm going to talk about outside of the California Community College system, where you can find OER. Some of these might be familiar to you. I will say a lot of these repositories sort of overlap because they pull from a lot of OER publishers or organizations that develop OER. So the first one I want to talk about is Open Textbook Library, which is technically what we call like a referatory, which means it doesn't specifically house the material in it. It just pulls from a lot of different sources so that they're all discoverable in one place. So it's mostly a peer-reviewed collection, lots of open textbooks, multiple subjects. All textbooks are reviewed by faculty from different institutions. You can browse by subject or search by subject. I think the last time we looked, there were about 900 open textbooks, and these are full textbooks. And then 60% of those books have been reviewed by faculty, not all of them, but most of them. The subjects covered are, business, computer science, engineering, math, biology, some of the social sciences and things like that. You can browse pretty easily by subject if you just click on that Browse Subjects button, and then you can select your discipline. Okay, OpenStax is another go-to. I know quite a few faculty here at Fresno City College are using OpenStax, as well as some of the our sister colleges as well. OpenStax is a project of Rice University. All the titles in there are peer-reviewed. I think the last time I checked, there are about 40 titles, and they range. There's a lot of GE in there. There's some college readiness textbooks that I've seen faculty pull out sections of and include in their materials, just to help students with studying skills and things like that. And so you can remix and match materials even if they're not from your discipline, but these are full textbooks. Anyone can adopt these titles. OpenStax partners with OER Commons so that you can find materials in OER Commons that are specific to the OpenStax content. And I know OpenStax is experimenting with some beta programs, something that's called Assignable, that can be integrated in Canvas. And it's sort of like a homeworking system for that is tied to some of the OpenStax textbooks. So they're working more in that space as well, not just providing textbooks and ancillaries, but also some of the assessments that go along with those textbooks. I think I've seen Anatomy and physiology has assignable beta that faculty can test out, and I know that they are experimenting with some of the social sciences textbooks as well. So that's something to look out for. And quite a few of the OpenStax books have cartridges that you can upload into Canvas. So it'll pull in all of the OpenStax content when you do that process. All right. Oh, and OpenStax is in Canvas Commons as well. So you can search for it and download the course or the modules. Alrighty. Milne Open Textbook Library covers a large range of subjects, but only about a few titles in each subject. So it's a little smaller. But most or all of these textbooks are authored and peer reviewed by SUNY faculty and staff. So it is a project of the State University of New York. You can just go to its website. You can browse by keyword, by textbook, or by subject. Something that's interesting about Milne open textbooks is that the titles in there are either original work or they are a significant adaptation of another OER. So it's somewhat exclusive. So you might find things in here that you wouldn't find elsewhere. Alrighty. BC Open Collection is, oh gosh, I'm losing my spot in here. These are materials that are reviewed by faculty as well. Everything meets accessibility requirements. You may find some OER where there are accessibility issues. That's always something to look for with OER. But BC Campus has specific accessibility requirements that all of these materials have to meet. You just go to the website, look through the find materials, use some of the filters to search for specific books within BC Campus. All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about aggregated repositories here. So the first one is Skills Common, and Skills Common is more specific to workforce development, CTE. You can search by industry, you can search by topic. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have any questions about Skills Common, feel free to reach out to us. Again, this is more for CTE materials. All right, Cool for Ed is a really large repository referatory. It's sort of an extension of Merlot, if that rings a bell. Merlot's been around a really long time. It's a huge repository full of lots of open materials. Cool for Ed was actually created by the California Open Education Resource Council, and it's hosted by the CSU system. So you can search by course ID, it has, or by discipline. It has a really helpful faculty showcase where they pull out different OER developed by faculty in one of the three California California higher education systems, and just kind of interview the faculty about why they created it, what their students think about the resource. So that's kind of fun to read. And then, of course, you can search by subject area, or you could search by CID to make sure you're finding the correct materials for the correct course. All right, Open Oregon is why don't I just go into Open Oregon, because I think it's pretty self-explanatory to search. It's a pretty simple interface. You can search by keyword. You're looking for a writing material, or search by discipline. It's a little bit smaller. You'll notice that some of these materials are hyperlinked, so you can access them right away. Some of them are available via library access. So as Sally mentioned earlier, the difference between open materials and ZTC materials, these materials available through the library would not be open, but they're still zero cost. So you would have to access them through the library library. I recommend if you find a material, if you're looking in Open Oregon and you find something in here that says it's available via library access, go ahead and ask us. Contact the library, see if we have the same material in our collection. Sometimes we, as community colleges, subscribe to some of the same bundles, so we may have that material, or we may be able to purchase it as part of our ebook collection. So again, these are not all open. Some of them are just ZTC. Some of them are open educational resources. Go ahead and ask the library to see if we have any of those materials available to you, available here at Fresno City College. All right, OER Commons, I did mention earlier, is a larger repository. It's a really, I like it because you can filter in it. And I'm a librarian, I love filters. So if I wanted to look for business writing or something like that, I could also limit by the larger subject area. I could limit by education level. So this has things all the way from pre-K 12 to 16 in here. And then you can also look at different materials are created by different collections. Perform your search. Give it a moment. And then over here on the left-hand side, we can filter by license types. I always sort of like to look at the material type as well. If I'm just looking for a textbook, or maybe I'm looking for some kind of assessment or homework assignment, or just an entire course, if I wanted something, I could add that into my search and filter that way. So again, OER Commons is one of those repositories that collects from a lot of different sources. Oh, and it also has a building platform, which I have not experimented with. We're more of like a LibreText campus, I think. But that is an option if you find a lot of things in OER Commons that you want to use. All right. Oh, okay. Speaking of LibreText, so LibreText, and I think one of our sessions this week is going to be an intro to LibreText. Is that on Thursday?
Yes, Thursday. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So if this sounds interesting to you, if you didn't get to come to the 2-day training that we had a couple weeks ago, this would be a really good introduction to LibreText. I know the ASCCC OERI has quite a few um, uh, workshops and webinars about it as well. So it's a repository for OER. This is really a building platform as well. So you can go into LibreText, you can link to the materials in there. You can also pull materials from different OER that are housed in LibreText and build your own OER. So after the 2-day training that we had a couple weeks ago, I'm building some OER in LibreText. So there's quite a few folks here that are working. Yeah, as mentioned, it's most of the material in there is editable, importable. You can easily remix. So easily is in quotes because there is a learning curve to LibreText. But I think once you get it, it becomes more intuitive, and it's quite a process, but it's because you want to be as organized and tedious as possible while you're doing this kind of work, because it can be easy to get confused or forget to do a step and then get a little bit lost. So but it is a really helpful place to remix material if you plan on using and remixing different OER together. It's a good place to do all of that remixing. And then this LibreFest, I don't know if that's happening this year, but we may need to change the date on that. Okay.
That's from last semester. So
Yeah.
sorry.
We might be doing it again in October. We don't know. Okay, so Oasis is it's one of those repositories as well. So it pulls from other resources, universities, open publishing houses. It has content like TED Talks and other things from BC Campus and LibreText that I mentioned earlier. So it pulls from quite a few sources, 114, and there's different media that you can find. So not just textbooks and modules, but also audiovisual content as well. And this is just a quick look at Oasis, where you can see where to find, or you can actually limit to just textbooks or all course materials, or also interactive simulations that it has in there as well. And again, these are all open materials. Alrighty. And then a couple of places that I do want to point out towards the end of this session. I know I'm okay. I'm pretty good on time, so I think I can do it in 5 minutes. So Google Advanced Searching has the option to limit by usage rights or licenses. This isn't 100%. There are times where Google will pull or send me or provide me with results, and then I go to the link and then I can't even find the license statement on there, so I can't trust that it's actually open. But it does help filter down some things. If you add OER into your search terms, that usually works pretty well. But if you go to Google Advanced Search, and then there's an option to select usage rights, and it gives you different usage rights that you can limit to. So if you just want something that you can use, or something that you can modify, or something that you can use and modify commercially, it'll search for some of those licenses in your Google search. All right. And then a good place to find zero cost books is through the library. So as Sally mentioned earlier, these are not open resources. The librarians can help you kind of decide or interpret how you can use the materials in your courses. But you can actually search through our One Search catalog, which finds lots of ebooks that you can use. The main places that we look for ebooks are O'Reilly for higher education, EBSCO eBooks, and ProQuest eBooks Central. And these all feed into our OneSearch catalog. And filters, again, are your friend. So from the library website, just go to our Find and Access column. Books OneSearch catalog is going to be the first button in that list. And then just search for your topic. If you're looking for something specific, you can, of course, add in those keywords. Use some of those limiters. So our filters are, we want it to be an ebook. Make sure that they're all books, because we do have other types of materials cataloged in our online catalog. You can update the years. And then you can also look at each result list to determine if something is open access, and that should be freely available for your students to access. Otherwise, they can just access it through a link that the librarians can help you set up, so that it's easy to get from Canvas to the book to read. And then I also wanted to point out we have an open access filter, so that you can limit in our online catalog just to materials that are openly available. All right. I think those are all of my, open media collections. Okay, so we have a so there's quite a few places where you can find open media. Creative Commons has an image search. The Getty Institute has open images. Most of these I think are public domain. Same with the Library of Congress. Unsplash has Unsplash, or I'm blanking on the other one. Pixabay, I think. Some of them have their own licenses that you might need to follow, but for the most part, those many of the images on those stock photo image companies are free to at least use with attribution. And then Diverse Tech Geek is a great place for some stock photos as well. All right. So I'm gonna leave it at that and stop now to see if anyone has questions for Sally and I.
Okay. Okay, well, if there's no questions, I'm going to stop recording.